Hey everybody, my name is John Cormican, so I'm heading up a new software centre of excellence for Jaguar Land Rover based in the west of Ireland in a place called Shannon, if you know it. Part of the reason why I'm here is we have a vision along ourselves in Jaguar Land Rover and several other tech companies here in Ireland. We want to make Ireland the centre of the universe for connected autonomous vehicles. So if you think about that, that's somewhat unusual because many people say to me, well, you know, here in Ireland, we don't have a car manufacturing automotive industry. We don't build cars like they do in Germany or in Detroit or in Japan. So why on earth would you do it in Ireland? And also, we're a reasonably small country, so we're 5 or 6 million people. We don't consume that many cars. We don't buy that many cars like they do in China or the US. So again, why would you make Ireland the centre of the world when it comes to connected autonomous vehicles? And the reason is, when it comes to CAV, it's much more about the vehicle. It's about technology. So it's much more an ICT, information connectivity technology play than it is just about the car. So to put a car on the road and make it drive itself is quite a complex problem. You need a lot of software. You need sensors, for example, cameras, LiDARs, radars to sense its environment, for the car to sense its environment. You need data centers off board to process all that data that's coming from the vehicle. Say you need software, you need a lot of different components to make that happen. And this is the reason why Ireland should be at the centre of the world when it comes to CAV, because we have so many tech companies located here in Ireland, and a lot of them are very interested to come together to form a group called CAV and make Ireland the centrepiece of connected autonomous vehicles. So for the last year or so, we've been working with the IDA. So the IDA, for those of you who are from overseas, is the part of the Irish government that attracts foreign direct investment into the country. We're also working with Enterprise Ireland, who helps small indigenous Ireland companies export their technology and services to other countries. The IDA, Enterprise Ireland, Science Foundation Ireland are also behind this. They're very interested in this idea. Also, some of the research units of Ireland are involved. So Connect, Insight, and Lero, they're research groups within the universities that are developing technology also in this area, as well as ourselves. So we're based in Shannon, and in our location, just in the 45 minutes to 60 minutes of the location, you have a whole bunch of tech companies. So for example, you have the likes of Cisco in Galway, who are working on IoT, smart cities, and connectivity. You have the likes of Analog Devices in Limerick, who's a big player. They have several thousand employees. They're developing radar technology for autonomous vehicles. You have General Motors, who are also in Limerick City, ourselves in Shannon, IBM, Intel, Vallejo in Galway, who are doing sensor technology for automated parking and low-speed driving. So there's, without us kind of knowing it, there's a strong concentration of tech companies in the region. And the idea is that we would all come together with the IDA, Science Foundation Ireland, Enterprise Ireland, and the colleges, and form this group. And we have a plan, and the plan is to roll this out and make Ireland the centre of the world when it comes to CAV. And we have some interesting ideas how to do that. To give you a little bit more insight into how do we get there. So as Anne said, I used to work for Intel. I spent about 15 years at Intel, and I was responsible for automotive business development in Europe. So I was working with many OEMs, so Mercedes, BMW, Volvo, Porsche, many of the tier 1 suppliers into those car manufacturers like Harman, Continental, Bosch, Vallejo, Denso. And several years ago, it was about selling widgets into cars. So we would sell silicon and software to do an infotainment system, or silicon and software to do an instrument cluster, which is the panel behind the steering wheel, or a telematics box. And they were all kind of individual systems. But in the last 4 or 5 years, the industry has really changed. It's very much focused towards autonomous driving, which is much bigger than the vehicle itself. It's about storage, it's about capacity, it's about networking, it's about communications infrastructure. So it's a much, much bigger play. And that's why you see a lot of tech companies who are very interested in this market who had nothing to do with automotive several years ago. So again, if you look into the dynamics of the industry, you have huge players like Apple, like Google and Waymo, like Baidu, like Tesla, like Uber, like Lyft, all these so-called new entrants to the market who are spending billions and billions of dollars and euros and pounds on this tech And then you've got the traditional, so-called traditional car manufacturers like ourselves, Jaguar Land Rover, Mercedes, General Motors. So it's really, really the coming together of tech and traditional car manufacturers. And what you see here is our fancy new building. So it's under construction right now. So this is what it will look like next year when we move into it. And I guess, how did we get here? So myself and a few other folks had the idea to start this up in Shannon. So we took the risk essentially to leave Intel, which is a fabulous company, a really great company. A few of us got together, like-minded people, and convinced JLR to move to Shannon. And we had a team of about 12 people. And some of them were like literally very, very junior, just out of college, literally, very little experience. And some of them were very, very senior. So we had a really good dynamic in terms of the starting team. And the skills they had, very interesting. So they had skills in artificial intelligence, machine learning, embedded software, virtualization, cloud services, connectivity, a whole bunch of different skills. And that was our starting point. But then if you look in the region, I mean, we're pretty much in between Limerick and Galway, two great cities. And in Limerick, you have a fabulous university in UL. You have a great tech college in LIT. Same thing in Galway. You have National University of Ireland, Galway. You have GMIT. And Cork is not so far away. You've got UCC and CIT. So that cluster between Limerick, Cork, and Galway is producing many, many thousands of graduates. And that's primarily the reason why JLR is moving to Shannon, because we can access that talent pool. And there's some really, really great courses in the region that we're basically hiring from. So we started with literally a handful of people with nothing last year. Next year, we're going to move into this building, which is our office space. Further down the street, we'll have our garage, as we call it. It's going to be more than just a garage, so it's going to be 33,000 square feet, 10 meters high. And this is where we'll do the software development for our autonomous vehicles. And the key thing for me is really the fact that we can do this in Ireland. It's not necessarily about always in faraway places like Silicon Valley or Israel or Germany, whatever else. We have the talent in this country. And just to showcase, I came across this group called Airloop recently, and this is a bunch of 54 students from a whole collection of colleges, mostly in Dublin, and they decided to enter this Hyperloop SpaceX competition. So what that is essentially is they're building a pod, and the pod goes into a tube, and the pod travels at 500 kilometers an hour across the tube. So if that was to play out, you could get from Galway to Dublin in 10 minutes. And these students quickly realized they had some software skills, but they needed mechanical skills, electronic skills, mechatronic skills, and they got together, all 54 of them, and they're at the final stages of the competition in California in a couple of weeks' time. And this is the kind of great talent we have in this country. The industry is drastically changing. So we have this nice tagline called ACES, or Autonomous Connectivity, Electrification, and Shared. And what this is really saying is the fundamental DNA of most car manufacturers is changing. So it used to be about tires and brakes and propulsion and body control and chassis electronics. And those things are still very, very important, of course. But now it's mostly about software. It's about connectivity. It's about electrification. It's about shared mobility. In a few years' time, the whole fabric of society could be drastically changed if we have autonomous vehicles on our public roads. So I have a young family. My youngest boy is 6. The chances are he may never learn to drive. He may want to drive, and that's cool for fun, but he may never actually learn to drive. It might not be necessary for him. And the social impact of that is going to be huge. Unfortunately, in this country and most places around the world, we have terrible accidents, tragedies on the road. And we can stop that. We can drastically reduce those accidents and injuries on our roads. And that will be a huge benefit to society. People who will feel safer in cars, and people who perhaps wouldn't drive in the past will be able to have transportation. So there's going to be a huge benefit to society going forward if we can get this right. But it is a complex problem. It's not straightforward. It involves a lot of tech, a lot of software, sensors, data centers, and we have this talent in this country, hence the reason why we're coming together to form this CAV group, Connect Autonomous Vehicles, and make ourselves center stage in the world. Of course we can do it. The last kind of picture here is, I don't know if you can recognize the road, but that's the M18, which is the road that connects the motorway that connects Limerick to Galway. And it's a fabulous piece of infrastructure. It goes all the way to Tuam, and we want to make this M18 and west of the M18 a testbed infrastructure for Ireland. So if you think about that, it's quite easy, let me say, to put a driverless car on a motorway because everybody's going the same direction and the road markings are clear, and it's easy in relative terms. But if you go west of that, I'm not sure if you know about the west of Ireland. We have challenging road conditions. So we have grass on the road, we have sheep on the road, we have stones on the road, we have potholes, and we have very, let me say, interesting weather conditions. I know a lot of folks here from the US and from Arizona and those great places where, in 350 days a year, it's wall-to-wall sunshine. It's not quite the same over here. So my point is that if we can get this right for Ireland, for the west of Ireland, then we can do it anywhere in the world. So we have great companies, we have a great story, we have the tech in this country. I'm looking around the room here and I'm seeing a lot of young faces, and I'm wondering, are you interested in tech? Are you interested in having a career? And to be able to apply that in the automotive sector and actually put it into vehicles and drive those vehicles on the road is quite an interesting thing. So if engineers can't get excited about that, then I'm not sure what we can do. And I'd like to just finish up by saying, we're here for the long term. We're investing heavily in R&D. We're going to have a big presence in Shannon. We're looking forward to hopefully creating as many jobs as we possibly can. But the most important thing is we get the right people. We get innovation, we have creativity, we have inclusiveness. And this is my first time at Inspirefest, and all those words keep coming out: inclusivity, innovation, creativity. And that's the kind of workforce we want to create for Jaguar Land Rover in Ireland. Thank you very much.